Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Hope everyone's had a good weekend so far. Um, if you're new, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, and my social media handles are down below. You can also check out the links in the description, um, including one to my merch if you're interested. So, alright, today I want to talk about two different things. But first, before I move into the longer topic, I just want to share this poster for Zack Snyder's Netflix movie that will be coming out this summer, Army of the Dead. It has gotten an official release date, as well as a announcement for a teaser dropping Thursday. All right, this coming Thursday. So we have a poster, Army of the Dead. It says a Zack Snyder film, of course. Survivors Take All. May 21st is the official release date on Netflix. Alright, so it's a pretty cool poster. We see like money and cards flying around, a vault that is very immediately reminiscent of the vault that in Man of Steel that Superman crashes into when him and Faora are fighting. Even though this is outside of the DC realm, you know, that was the first thing that came to my mind, and I've already seen people making references and showing, you know, that's what came to my mind. And then we see like some hands coming out of the top. It's a little bit bloody. It is a zombie movie, but it's a zombie heist movie. All right, a bag of money on the bottom. So I like the colors. It has that stamp of Snyder on it, but you know, cool poster, May 21st, and a teaser this Thursday. We'll get our first look. We've seen very brief little clips during one of the Netflix promos when they released kind of like their slate for this year of movies. There was like a couple little quick, very fast clips in there, but now we'll get like a teaser, an official teaser. So make sure you support Zack for that movie also. And next I want to move over to an article from the Sunday Telegraph Insider, an Australian media trade. First of all, the cover is really cool and like, you know, kind of grungy vintage sort of look. It is Jason Momoa, and in big letters we see that headline that stands out: Justice Prevails. How DC fans took on the big guys and won. So, really cool magazine cover, and then there's a picture of how it looks in the actual, you know, the actual pages. You know, no justice, it's up to us. Some cool pictures there, you know, some behind the scenes stuff, Zack, the cast together, some shots from the movie. So I want to go ahead and go through that article and, you know, discuss it. So, again, Justice League Snyder Cut, How Fans Changed Film History. Alright. Once dubbed a Frankenstein's monster, this is the extraordinary story of how a group of Justice League fans changed movie history. And it really is it's a historical thing. It's the sort of thing that sounds like a plot of a classic underdog movie. A group of ordinary people to start a movement, take on the big guys, and get a win. Only in this case, it's a movie that would be about a movie, or actually two movies. Sounds confusing? Perhaps that is the story of the fight to release the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League. Sean O'Connell is the managing director of pop culture website CinemaBlend, a 20-year-old veteran of reporting on the entertainment industry, and the author of Release the Snyder Cut, the crazy true story of the fight that saved Justice League. So this article really is basically like kind of giving an insight into what this book is about, and, you know, there's going to be a lot from the book in this article. In what world is this normal? Years from now, history is still going to be boggled that these guys accomplished this, he says, referring to Sean O'Connell, who many of you are probably familiar with. Which is very true. Like, it's going to remain a huge, like, moment in entertainment history. He says there was already huge interest in Justice League because it was DC's version of the Avengers, which was by now a multi-billion-dollar franchise for Marvel, that only increased when Avengers director Joss Whedon was brought in to replace Zack Snyder after Snyder left following the tragic suicide of his daughter. I don't know if I'd agree with that, but maybe the people who are hoping for a lighter movie, I don't know. Then fans arrived at the cinema in 2017, expecting to see beloved characters such as Batman and Superman teaming up with other DC legends. Instead, what they got was, quote, completely unacceptable on every level, a Frankenstein's monster that was butchered by so many hands, O'Connell says. I think that's a very fair representation of what happened. As well as Cyborg, Ray Fisher, having his backstory cut, fans were angry that the Flash was essentially just used as comic relief. And then there was the horror of Henry Cavill coming back for reshoots with a mustache and having to get that digitally altered. Yeah. That will never... It will never... I don't think it'll ever make sense to us how that was approved visually. The mustache controversy. Oh, how they butchered his CGI face, O'Connell says. There was also theory that the studio had chosen Whedon, associated with the enemy, Marvel, to finish a jewel in the DC crown. Such interesting decisions were made. From a filmmaking voice perspective, they don't make the same movies. They are completely different, he says. Again, referring to Sean O'Connell, which is 100%, I agree with that. Whedon is all pop culture references and sarcastic quips, while Snyder was darker, more serious, and was going for a gods among men tone. I think that's also a fair description of the, distinctions. Almost instantly, fans began to call for the Zack Snyder version. Now, this is not unusual. Fans called for the last season of Game of Thrones to be reshot, for both The Last Jedi and The Return of Skywalker to be redone. None of those things have happened. Like almost everyone else, O'Connell essentially dismissed them at first, but then the movement kept growing. And I have said that for a long time, that it was just so crazy to me that, this thing never lost momentum. It gained momentum over the years, and I always thought that has been such a, awesome thing about this whole movement. The one that caught my eye was in San Diego for Comic-Con in 2019, where they bombarded downtown San Diego with Snyder Cut advertising. O'Connell says they wrapped glass bus stations, hired a plane to tow a banner. I said, I've got to start finding out about them. It really started becoming so visual, people getting things out there to get attention for it. In October 2019 at New York's Comic-Con, they rented a digital billboard in Times Square. I thought, you guys are insane. That to me, that was still one of the biggest moves that this movement has made, as far as getting visual, getting it out there visually for people to see. After talking to some of the group who would cringe if I called them leaders, but some of the more senior members who carry the torch and point the direction, he learned how it wasn't just about pushing for their movie. They did all the fundraising themselves, and every time they paid for a billboard, they raised the exact same amount for suicide prevention, he says. So then it started to become, apparent that all this we've been doing is not just for the movie, it was also because of what happened to Zack and his family. And that was really the big, even that was, a reason for some people why they jumped on board, was seeing what the fan base was doing for AFSP, suicide prevention. They were constantly raising money on that behalf, so they weren't just entitled fans. I learned about how passionate they can be. They are just regular people, truly regular people. They had a mentality, us against the big studio, a real David versus Goliath mentality. I collected their stories, and what stunned me the most was how global they were. Fans from the Middle East, India, Europe, and Australia. Yes, it was largely driven by social media, but there were just as many who weren't online, and that's very true. Social media, obviously the movement has had a huge presence on social media, but there are also things outside of that that have brought attention to it. And even on my small channel, there's people from all over the world, and so that's why it was so important that this is being available worldwide. That's such a huge deal. So he managed to land a book deal last year, but he didn't have a proper ending. He tried to speak to Snyder, but the director's representatives told O'Connell that Snyder couldn't go on the record. So I thought that he was either negotiating with the studio and didn't want to jeopardize that, or he was working on his own documentary about it, O'Connell says, which is interesting to me that at first he wasn't able to talk to Zack. The closest previous example, ironically, was Superman 2. Director Richard Donner was able to release his version about 20 years after its original release, but that was unfinished. That's insane. So I thought the book would have an open-ended finish. I asked the fans if they had a message. What would you like to tell him, Snyder? O'Connell says. He received hundreds of messages from around the world from fans saying how much the film meant to them. Then the most amazing stroke of luck, a month before I had to turn the book in, HBO Max announced the Snyder Cut, he says. And this was not just a rough of the previously shot footage. This was money to shoot new scenes, including bringing in Jared Leto as the Joker, to shoot a scene with Ben Affleck as Batman. He quickly rewrote the ending and even had the chance to speak with Snyder about it. He is as stunned as anybody, he says. He also envisioned it would be 10 to 15 years, and then he would be able to show some of the footage. It's crazy that Zack really felt that way, and 10 to 15 years? And I guess going based off of what happened with Richard Donner's, second Superman movie, maybe, and just working with the studio and seeing, the whole, just everything that happened. And it says then he thought he might be able to show some of the footage, like not even release the movie as a whole. This is why this whole thing is such a, huge deal that this is happening. The other extraordinary thing about it was how the actors took up the cause. Fisher, Jason Momoa, and even Gal Gadot and Ben Affleck used their social media to keep things moving. O'Connell says he can understand the likes of Fisher agitating for a new cut, given his storyline was greatly diminished, but Gadot and Affleck still had deals with Warner Brothers and were essentially attacking their own employer. Okay, we know they weren't attacking them, but, kind of speaking out against them in that way, even though it shouldn't be viewed that way. That's kind of what it started to become after they had never said anything for all these years. It's going to be a rousing throwback superhero movie, he says. A 4-hour bombastic epic and team-building exercise. I think it'll be closer in tone to the first Wonder Woman or Aquaman. That I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe I could go with the first Wonder Woman, but I don't know about Aquaman. I think Aquaman was a slightly different tone. But that's just my personal opinion. He's excited about what it will mean for a more epic Flash and also seeing Superman's resurrection done properly. Amen to that. Seeing the team together, to see them interacting properly, I think it will be like the first Avengers, he says. I guarantee fans will lose their minds. He's unsure if it will lead to a sequel, where the heroes get to take on the big baddie of the DC Universe, Darkseid, but after what has happened, it seems anything is possible. I agree with that too. And just as a reminder, for those in Australia, the Snyder Cut of Justice League will be available exclusively on Foxtel and Binge starting March 18th, which is the worldwide release. Okay, and then the book is out March 1st. So, I just wanted to go over that article because it just shows that, there have been articles in other big, main trades as well, but this one's very recent. This was just from yesterday, so these kinds of things just go to show that this has become so much larger and expanded beyond the Snyder Cut fandom, and the Zack Snyder fandom and the DCEU. It has expanded into entertainment in general, pop culture, and it was already being noticed outside of the DCEU fan base before it got announced. The more attention it gained, it was becoming noticed, New York Times articles and all of those kinds of things. And because of that, because of the billboard in Times Square, because of putting things on bus stations, because of flying banners, because of bringing attention at huge Comic-Con events, and having this huge presence on social media, gaining, petitions and just all these things, letter writing campaigns, and, gaining all the money for AFSP. That's why it started gaining a lot of attention outside of this fandom, but now that it got announced, and it's it's going to be a 4-hour, uncompromised, original vision from a director, that just, puts it at a whole nother level of a historical thing in entertainment. And it's been crazy to me seeing, especially because the trailer came out, and I've watched some reactions of people that I was, used to kind of like to watch, and then after I saw them just destroying BVS, and everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but I was just I don't know if I can listen to these people anymore. Seeing a lot of those people saying I am looking forward to watching this. After I watched the theatrical version of Justice League, I immediately wanted to what Zack Snyder had to offer. Like, it's just crazy to me that it took these many years, a movie getting completely destroyed by another director and a studio, seeing a trailer for this. Like, it's amazing to me that it took all of that for some people to, like, acknowledge that Zack Snyder really had a whole different movie in store and planned. And I'm not referring to the 214. That would have been a very different movie as well, but it was a compromised version of what Zack wanted to do. So this is why it's such a huge deal, and why it's also so important that it's going to be available worldwide. Because as the article mentioned, and as probably you know if you've been involved in this for a while, it has been a very global thing. So it's still surreal to me. It's still crazy to me that we're going to watch this in less than a month. It's like 25 days now, and it's amazing. It's so, so awesome to be a part of this and to see how it's played out. And I can't even, if we feel this way, I can't imagine how Zack and Debbie feel and the cast. And it's the most surreal thing. And the article really says, like, no justice, it's up to just us. And the fans really, truly made this happen. And Zack fought so hard for this international release. It was not in his hands, but he fought for it, And so it was very important to him that this be available to as many people everywhere as soon as possible. And so, again, when those updates come out about, Japan, China, and France, I'm sure Zack will share them like he did with the worldwide release announcement. So hang in there for that. But yeah, awesome. So just can't wait to share the excitement of watching with everyone. And thanks for watching, guys, though. That's what I wanted to cover for today. And again, check out the links in the description. Leave a thumbs up, hit the notification bell, and we will see you next time.